So what body type do you have? Are you a man with a triangle body type, the typical feature being narrow shoulders and wider hips? Or are you an inverted triangle? Broad shoulders, wide chest? Perhaps you're a rectangle. Your shoulders and waist being roughly the same width? Or perhaps you're an oval. You're carrying some weight in the midsection, which is the widest part of your body. Or are you fortunate to be a trapezoid, widely considered the most balanced body type? And by the way, you know you're this body type when a lot of off-the-rack clothing fits you perfectly. You want to look good when you get dressed, when you put your clothing on, when you walk out your door. So how do you make any outfit work with any body type? Are there rules? Is there a framework for looking good in everything? Well, in today's video, gents, I'm not promising miracles, but I will lay out a set of guidelines that no matter your body type, if you follow these frameworks, you are going to look your best. You ready, gents? Let's get into it. So to start this off, let's talk about what not to do. Common mistakes you want to avoid when you're putting together an outfit. First up, you don't want to wear clothing that's way oversized. Second, you don't want to wear clothing that's too tight. I know this seems obvious, but look around you. Look at how many guys are wearing clothing that's too big for them. The next mistake, ignoring proportion. You're wearing those heavy, rugged boots with tapered chinos. Yeah, it doesn't work because the proportions are off. Almost always avoid loud patterns. The 1% of the time it's allowed whenever you're wearing a small accessory. The next mistake, not knowing the dress code. Gents, even if it's not stated, there is always a dress code. Otherwise, people will be able to walk around naked. The next mistake, focusing on trends versus the fundamentals. Baggy clothing is back, but does it complement you and your build? Probably not. Choosing quantity over quality. Cheap clothing that's using cheap materials and is poorly made never makes a man look good. And of course, let's not forget poor posture. Roll the shoulders back, push out the chest, stand up straight. In 2 seconds, you can do those 3 things and you will look 4 times better. Now, gents, if you can avoid making those mistakes, you are going to be ahead of 90% of men. And now with the frameworks I'm about to lay out, you will be in the top 1%. But gents, before I get into that, I want to introduce you to today's sponsor, Collars & Co. Now, gents, I've been working with Collars & Co. for years because I love what these guys do. Seriously, they've got an amazing story. When they were on Shark Tank, they introduced the world to the dress collar polo. This was a shirt that solved the problem the founders had. They wanted to be able to dress up, but they wanted a shirt that was comfortable. So the guys at Collars & Co. fixed that. And they did it by taking the polo shirt design and mixing it with the collar and front placket of a dress shirt. So the result, an incredibly versatile shirt that you can dress up, you can dress down, you can layer with a sweater, you can wear it with a blazer, or you can simply wear the shirt by itself with a pair of chinos or shorts. Now, normally I'm wearing a solid white or navy dress collar polo, but in today's videos you can see I'm wearing one of their pattern fabrics, this one in a really smooth brown houndstooth. I went with brown because I knew it would complement blue. As you can see here, I've got their merino wool cashmere quarter zip sweater. It's got a brown suede trim. And yeah, gents, Collars & Co. did not rest on their laurels. They immediately jumped into other parts of menswear. And I have to say, as a guy with over 100 sweaters in this collection, their knitwear is second to none and is a great deal. And besides the quarter zips, I highly recommend their long sleeve merino wool polos. As you can see, I've been wearing it in a lot of other videos I've been filming and absolutely loving it. It's lightweight, soft, and the fabric drapes oh so nice. And if you really want to dress things up, grab their Maverick Performance Blazer. I have this jacket in blue, which you've seen in many of my videos. I just got it in navy. Gents, I'm telling you, if you want a jacket that does everything, to looking good, check. To functioning well, this jacket's breathable. It's made from a stretch material made to be comfortable. It's wrinkle resistant, and you can even throw this thing in the washing machine. Yeah, for those of you guys that need to dress up but don't like to because it's too much of a hassle, this jacket is a godsend. Check out what they've got. If you're going to start anywhere, I highly recommend starting off with a dress shirt polo in white, navy, black, whatever your go-to color is. In any case, gents, again, go check out Collars & Co. I'm linking to them down in the description of today's video. An awesome company. Proud to support them. Go check them out. So the first framework to making any outfit work for any body type is you have to nail the fit. And I'm not talking about a close fit. I'm talking about a perfect fit. Now, as I mentioned earlier, if you got a trapezoid body type, you got a little bit of leeway. But if you're a triangle, if you're an inverted triangle, if you are an oval, then guys, even if you've got a decent fit off the rack, it's going to behoove you to go to a tailor and get a perfect fit. Now, I've said this before, but I think like a lawyer or a mechanic, a tailor should be a man that you've got in your Rolodex who you know and you take your clothing to because it's a relatively inexpensive way to very quickly improve your look. But in the case that you don't have a great tailor, make sure whenever you're trying on clothing, it fits you first and foremost in the shoulders. Because if a jacket or shirt doesn't fit you in the shoulders, it's almost impossible to adjust it to do so. Now the torso and waist, depending on the size of the garment and your size, can usually be brought in anywhere from 1.5 to 3.5 inches. Obviously, proportionally bigger guys are going to be able to bring it in a bit more because we're just using more fabric here. Now when it comes to sleeve and pant length, those are relatively easy things to adjust. And another big win here is when your clothing fits you better, it's going to be more comfortable. Now unfortunately, if you're short and stout, if you're tall and lean, if you're big and round, if you are a bodybuilder, you are going to get hit by the tailor tax unfairly. The reality is most off-the-rack clothing is made to fit a body type that's geared more towards the trapezoid shape. That being said, don't look dejected because Framework 2 is a hack to overcome this. So my next piece of advice for making any outfit work with any body type is to buy less clothing but of higher quality. Now we'll talk about how to find high quality here in a second, but the way this guideline works is that higher quality, better built clothing can not only be adjusted to fit you better, but because it's constructed using quality materials, quality thread, quality buttons, in a nutshell, because it's built better, it will last longer. Well, what's that mean? It means that you get 3 years of wear out of that shirt versus 1.5. It means you get 5 years of wear out of that quality denim versus 2. It means those boots end up lasting you a decade versus 3 years. In addition, when you wear these items, you feel good about wearing them, so you wear them more. And because you avoided the mistake of going with bright, flashy colors or patterns, and bought almost all these items in neutral colors that are interchangeable, well, you're able to own less, you paid a little bit more for it, but you got a lot more mileage, a lot more use out of that clothing. In fact, I think a modest wardrobe of 4 pairs of shoes and boots, 6 pairs of trousers, maybe 12 shirts, and 5 jackets, well guys, assuming 100% interchangeability, that's over 1,400 outfits. Which means what, not wearing the same outfit for 4 years straight? My point is when you own less of better quality items, and you make sure when you buy each item it fits you properly or it's been adjusted to fit you better, well, you give yourself the ability to create tons of outfits that are going to look solid on you. Now let's get to the question of quality. How do you find it? The best advice I can give you here, go into a high-end department store, into the menswear area, and look at expensive clothing and see if you can understand why it's justifying the price. Now straight up, some items are just fashion items that are way overpriced, but you are going to find some jackets. You're going to touch a few shirts. And with your senses and paying a little bit of attention to detail, you're going to start to spot things in the build, in the touch, in the feel of this clothing that maybe isn't in yours. That high-end t-shirt may just look like a t-shirt, but when you get your fingers on it, you notice the thickness of the material, the way that shirt hangs, the way it drapes. When you're running your fingers over that cashmere sweater, you feel the difference between that and a synthetic polyester. You look at a pair of high-end shoes, you notice the shape, the construction, the softness in the leather. And here's the point. Your idea of quality is being reset. You've now seen, touched, and felt with your own senses what is possible, what is out there. And ideally, over time, you start to build your wardrobe to include items like that. So the next framework to making any outfit work with your body type is pay attention to the proportions. We talked about this in mistakes to avoid, but I don't think most men understand what proportions are in clothing. So let me show you an example. I've got 2 characters. Both of these guys you recognize as actors. But what do you notice? How can we tell that one man is much smaller than most people and another man is huge? Now, in the case of Peter Dinklage, we know that he is a small person because of the size of his head in proportion to his body, along with the length and size of his limbs. The same thing applies to the late Andre the Giant. His head, even though it is large, it's small in proportion to the size of his body. Now, to a lesser degree, this applies to most men that are shorter or taller than average. The torso on both of these men may be the same, but it's their limbs and their head size that are often the indicators of their true height. Now, understanding that when it comes to proportions in clothing, we want to make sure that the proportions of the items you wear, of the build and cut of the clothing that you put on your body, complements your strengths, offsets your weaknesses, and brings your proportions closer to the average norm. So if you've got a larger head, wearing a jacket that builds out the shoulders is going to be a good thing. If you've got shorter legs, you want to wear trousers that lengthen the leg line. Now, I'm not saying you got to wear high-waisted jeans, but you may choose to actually wear a belt that matches your trouser color versus matching your shirt color. Small details like this can go a big way in creating a more appealing image. Next up, let's talk about color. So monochromatic looks. This is where the color remains the same pretty much from the shoes all the way up to the shoulders. Monochromatic looks are going to complement most builds. The exception being if you're really tall, if you're lanky, then maybe we want to break it up and we want to slow down the process of the eyes from going up and down because, yeah, you've just got a long path to follow and it makes you look tall and skinny. Now, that's not saying we need to go high contrast. But a taller man who is dressed in black tie is probably going to look better than a shorter man who's trying to go for a high contrast look with that black tie and maybe wearing a pair of derbies or bright colored shoes that one are violating a rule of style, but the other thing is they're just causing us to focus our attention on his feet versus in his case, it'd probably look better if our eyes just went up and down really quick. Now, if you're that inverted triangle, if you've got broad shoulders, higher contrast can really work, especially if you're wearing a suit and you've got a light colored shirt. Having that contrast right there can draw our attention to the chest. But the key with color, no matter what your body shape is to use it strategically. If you're a tall, lanky guy, I like the idea of color blocking. So for you, when you dress up, wearing a pair of tan chinos with a navy blazer makes a lot of sense versus a shorter, maybe stout guy. He could go with gray flannels and that same navy blazer. And it's not fully a monochromatic look, but it's going to allow the eyes to go up and down. That being said, he doesn't have to make the outfit boring. He can bring in a fun colored tie or pocket square. Now, right with color, the next framework is pattern mastery. So looking at these two lines right here, which one is longer? Well, I know a lot of you guys have seen this before, so I'm going to give it away quick. They are actually the same length. It's simply the way the lines create an optical illusion that one side looks longer than the other. And that's what you've got to understand about patterns when it comes to vertical stripes. If you're short and stout, if you are large and in charge, vertical stripes are going to allow the eyes to go up and down, and they work incredibly well with shirts, and they can even work in a jacket and trousers or a suit combination. Horizontal stripes, on the other hand, they widen the man. So if you've got a large midsection, you want to avoid anything that's going to be a horizontal striped. But if you're a relatively thin guy, the kind of guy that has to run around in a shower to get wet, horizontal stripes are going to be your friend. Now, what about checks? What about plaids? Aren't these a combination? Do these work for anyone? Well, the key here is to look at the size of the patterns. So if these are larger checks, larger patterns, understand not only are these going to be more casual, but usually you need to be a little bit bigger of a guy to be able to pull these things off. Smaller checks, especially micro ones, are very much more subtle, almost even appear solid from a distance, are casual, but still not as casual as the larger patterns, and do a much better job of suiting most body types. Now, what about layering in outfits? How can you make this work for any body type? Well, believe it or not, fit matters a lot. Yeah, no surprise there. So whatever you're going to layer, make sure it fits your body properly. But the reality is any body type can look good with layering, assuming that they're using the right items in the right way. So first up, vests and waistcoats. To be honest, most guys don't even own one. And if you do, this is a great item to be able to add into your wardrobe because in case you weren't aware, the original purpose of the waistcoat was actually to provide a seamless transition from the trousers to the jacket and to cover the meeting area of the shirt. Even though waistcoats were made originally to be worn under a jacket, I find that if it fits you in the shoulders, it fits you in the waist, and you're wearing a lightweight sweater or shirt underneath, if it fits you, it can do a great job of broadening the shoulders, creating the illusion of a cinched waist, making the entire outfit, even in the absence of a jacket, look more uniform. So what about sweaters when it comes to any outfit with any body type? I, in general, am going to lean towards lighter weight sweaters. I find that the heavier, bulkier sweaters out there, nothing against them, but they're just harder to layer. Not only is it harder to put a jacket over them or even a vest, but they also, depending on, especially if you're a bigger guy or you get hot easily, it's just something that you're not going to be as comfortable layering. So because of that, I lean towards lightweight merino wools. I also want to go with a merino wool, not an untreated wool, which in case if you don't know the difference, untreated wools are usually going to have the wax on them. They're going to be heavier. And because the ends of the wool fiber are actually still barbed, those are the ones that are really itchy. But some people still love them, including me, because when it comes down to performance, water resistance, they're very good. They've still got that wax layer on them. But merino wools, these are going to be the finer wools, the softer wools. They're still going to have great insulating properties, but in general, they're going to take up 1/3 the weight, 1/3 the room of a heavier untreated wool. Another advantage of lightweight wool sweaters, which by the way, these can also have some cotton in them and occasionally some synthetic material, if they need an extra stretch or to get some type of performance from them. But my point is a lot of these lightweight sweaters are actually made to be layered. So their design and weave is going to lend itself to being worn underneath clothing or on top as an outerwear piece. That being said, if you're a slim guy, you may like these heavier weaves, especially when worn individually because it adds weight to your overall look. And of course, let's not forget about layering with a sports jacket or a blazer. In my opinion, there isn't a body type on this planet that can't be served by wearing the right type of jacket. When worn properly, a blazer slims up the silhouette, lengthens the arms, builds up the shoulders, makes a man look taller, and can take any man from average to awesome in about 30 seconds by just slipping it on. Next up, let's talk about posture. Let's talk about confidence. So many guys tell me all the time, Antonio, I don't want to dress up because it's uncomfortable. No, it's not uncomfortable. It's just unfamiliar. Because when you wear the right shirt, you wear the right sweater, you wear the right clothing, guys, you start to just feel great. This clothing, when I put it on, I feel like $1,000,000. It fits me. And that's one of the big mistakes guys make. Again, get back to the first point, is that they buy nice clothing, but they don't get it adjusted to fit them, or they buy the wrong size, and they wonder why it's not comfortable. Now, how to build confidence while wearing clothing and why most men don't dare to dress sharp? Guys, I got you covered with this video, boom, right here. Let's talk about it. Most men, let's face it, they just don't have the cojones to actually be the best dressed man in the room. And I talk about in this video how you can take that first step. So go check it out, boom, right there. Oh yeah.